Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Music Theory with Gim. In this installment, we're going to kick off our exploration of compositions found in the Front Mission soundtracks, particularly those on the Super Famicom. These scores carry some pretty heavy names in the composition world of gaming, and if you want to know more about them, I recommend checking the description below. Alright, so in this video we're going to be checking out the composition Pullout from Front Mission Gun Hazard. In order to easily follow along with this analysis, it's recommended that you are familiar with the term constant structure as well as how to build seventh chords. We'll talk about a few other aspects, but the context should be enough to clarify. Anyways, in this piece of music we'll be dealing with the following harmony. Now, if we approach this with a traditional format in mind, this harmony would leave us scratching our heads a bit. A Roman numeral analysis wouldn't lend us much in the long run, at least not in the functional sense, but if we tweak our perspective a bit, we'll find this piece is actually quite simple. The reason for the strange relations of these chords is because all of the chord voicings are built with constant structures. As a result, everything is built as follows: root note and bass, followed by a closed major triad built from the minor third. This provides us the minor third, perfect fifth, and minor seventh, all of which totals out for a closed voicing of a minor seventh chord. Now we could think of these simply as constant structures and leave it be, but there is more to it than simply a series of constant structures. For instance, the proximity of both E flat minor and C sharp minor create a gravitational pull towards D minor. This is due to them being half steps away. Considering our ears are going to compare both chords relative to D minor, we're going to hear how close they are to being the home chord, but aren't. So despite seeming like non-functional harmony, this is quite functional. We could even propose the idea of E flat minor and C sharp minor both being simply a series of chromatic approach tones. To demonstrate, let's play only a single note. Following the initial note, I will play either a note that is only a half step above or below. You'll most likely find that the tension created is resolved when we return to the initial note. Okay, let's take it one step further. Now we'll play minor thirds above each half step. Again, this is pulling very strongly towards the origin. But let's take it a step further and use some fully voiced chords. However, rather than play constant structures, we'll use a more functional progression. We'll replace E flat minor 7 with an E flat diminished 7, and C sharp minor 7 will be replaced with A7 over C sharp. E flat diminished 7 will now function as a common tone diminished 7th, and A7 over C sharp is the 5-7 chord in first inversion. As you just heard, these both have a very strong pull towards D minor due to the perceived relation. E flat diminished 7 would not normally ask to be resolved to D minor, but due to it originating prior, we hear that E flat diminished 7 is acting as a means to prolong the 1 chord, which is a typical function of common tone diminished 7th chords. Additionally, when A7 comes in, it has no true sense of development and is also prolonging the 1 chord. And that is really what these constant structures are doing, simply prolonging the 1 chord by providing a little bit of excitement. The difference is that we exchange strong fundamental voice leading in favor of parallel harmony. There's nothing wrong with this, it's simply a way to get similar results using different material. That said, each progression clearly has very different sounds, and I am by no means suggesting that these constant structures sound anything like the more functional progression I created. And when F sharp minor hits, we have a potential to deviate from D minor due to the distance placed between the two chords. However, just like E flat minor and C sharp minor, the chord is used as a way to create excitement around D minor. We know this because right after F sharp minor, we descend all the way back to D minor by way of minor seconds. This is essentially the entire tune harmonically. We have our progression that orients itself closely around the center point with very little traveling. Never do we explore the terrain of any sort of predominant or dominant relations. It's easy to get caught up in the mindset of needing to always write music that goes on this intense journey, but it's also important to know how to hover around a single harmonic location. And keep in mind that this is all based on what is present within the piece. This is by no means suggesting that E flat minor had to return to D minor, otherwise the progression would be broken. We very easily could have gone in different directions, similar to how every other harmonic instance has a number of pathways available. So definitely experiment with the variety of possibilities available to these chord relations. And of course, there was more to this harmony than simply the chord voicings. In addition to them, we also have melodic figures that are like ostinatos. Atop the three chords D minor, E flat minor, and C sharp minor, we see the same pitch set, this being what we could view as angular arpeggiations of a sus7, as it contains the root, 4th, 5th, and minor 7th in relation to each of these chords. Considering Yasunori Mitsuda is one of the composers in this score, I wouldn't be surprised if he had some involvement in this sequence, but I have no idea since none of the tunes are officially credited, at least to my knowledge they are not. Anyways, we can think of these as being melodic constant structures, but there are a few differences. However, these do not come in the form of different pitches or even the same notes in different registers. It's all the same information. On E flat minor and C sharp minor, the figure is extended, but the extensions simply repeat notes previously heard. In terms of harmony, a sus7 provides only the addition of the 4th or 11th. We can think of this as coloring a harmony as a minor 7 at 11th, or we can simply view it as a sus7 arpeggio atop the minor 7th voicing. Personally, that's how I approach it, as I feel a single chord symbol would oversimplify what's occurring. Plus, there's the consideration that these two pitch sets are distinctly separated by timbre. That said, how would the sus7 color the sound if it was either the only voicing present or in conjunction with the minor 7th voicing? Well, let's take a listen. We'll hear a variety of voicings that will contain either the sus7 voicing or will be a minor 7 at 11 voicing. This will be indicated by sheet music. So even though I would think of these as two separate harmonic structures in the context of the original tune, I certainly am not implying that they wouldn't work as a single entity. Alright, so before we can wrap this episode up, we need to finish out the melodic figure as it appears at the end of the form. Initially, it is unheard on F sharp minor, but come F minor, the figure re-emerges in an altered form. Rather than appear as a sus7 pitch set, we simply hear the root, 5th, and octave, and this works really well with the minor 2nd descent. And with this, we're going to wrap up the analysis. This tune is very simple and it takes a lot of the same information and simply moves it around. Of course, we didn't dig deeply into the rhythmic aspect and we didn't even touch on the drums and percussion, but regarding the harmonic structure, it's very simple. That said, this language might be foreign to you. If this is so, what can you do to absorb it? Well, my advice is to imitate. You could do this by using the same constant structure and playing around with the form or root progression. You could also use the same root progression and change the constant structures. Or you could simply go the route of composing with constant structures and trying to emulate the vibe of this tune. So now it's up to you to go out and play with some constant structures. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy this episode of Music Theory with Gim. Thank you for watching.